last night, and we'll kick it off with a game we'll call the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the good will be a favorable start, we think, for the Green Bay Packers. They open with the Vikings, then they play the Jets, they play the Falcons, and they play the Bucks. So we were talking yesterday, Adam Schefter, about the very real possibility that Micah Parsons is not back to start the season. So maybe a few softer games early benefit the Packers. Where are we with Parsons?
Parsons looks like he's going to miss at least the start of the season. They're hopeful he can make it back as soon as possible, but they themselves have been open about the fact that they're not counting on having him early on. If they're not going to count him early on, you have to wonder if he's a pup candidate, if he starts the season on that list. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he makes it back by then. We'll see how that works out, but the schedule sets up for Green Bay to be able to start quickly without Micah Parsons, who went down, as you referenced yesterday, Greeny, 5 months and 1 day exactly today. 5 months yesterday.
And they've won a combined total of exactly 0 games since then. So the Packers, they'll have to start it without Micah Parsons. What are the questions about them? Because I think a lot of it will then fall on Jordan Love. Some of the receivers are gone. Micah Parsons not going to be there to anchor that defense. If he's going to be an MVP kind of quarterback someday in his career, this would be a great time for him to do it.
The word for the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion, is rush. And it's rush on defense, right? Once Micah Parsons went down last year, they couldn't create a rush. I believe it's why Rashawn Gary is now in Dallas. Offensively, the same thing. Look at what Josh Jacobs was 2 years ago as compared to last year. He was one of the best running backs in the league. And if you get the run game going, now Jordan Love can be the player we've been expecting him to ascend to be for the last 3 years. And the other thing, the last piece is don't rush Micah Parsons back. You have this easy start to the season, or teams that are lesser, at least as far as we project them to be this year, allow Micah Parsons to be as healthy as he possibly could be for the stretch of the season, and that's going to be on Jonathan Gannon, the new DC, to make sure this defense can perform.
When you say stretch of the season, 4 of the last 5 games at home. The only road game they play in the final 5 weeks of the season is at Chicago.
I wish you could have all seen Shefty's face when he got this grid. We have a grid here that lists every game of the NFL schedule, and we lost Shefty for a good 10 minutes when Mike handed that to him. The Packers are an interesting one. It's a very competitive division. They're a team we've been waiting to take that next step. Maybe last year felt like a half a step backwards. Which way do they step this year in your mind, D. Wood, now that we see the schedule?
I think they can take a step forward this year. Another component that I would talk about is Tucker Kraft. He was so big as far as their offense. When he went down, you saw his effect and what he meant to that offense. So getting him back healthy is going to be a huge part of it. But I agree with RC here. Make sure that Micah is coming back right, because you want him in the second half to be that closer for the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love, I have no problems with it. I think some of these young wide receivers are going to take a step up. I think that's why they dealt some of them other guys, because they felt like guys like Christian Watson and Matthew Golden and all those guys were ready to kind of emerge and take a step forward.
Greeny, doesn't it feel like, though, for the last few offseason, Adam and Woody, that we've been talking about Jordan Love possibly becoming this MVP candidate? And even if you look at the playoff game last year against the Chicago Bears, he needed to make a play late, and we end up seeing Caleb Williams do that. Will this be the year that finally Jordan Love takes that next step? And I believe that goes along with the rush game for this team.
It would have been interesting last year if Parsons and Kraft stayed healthy, if Jordan Love would have taken that step last year. Now, I don't care who they open with. I don't care how the schedule lays out. You're bringing back these guys whenever they're ready to play, whether the schedule is easy or hard early on. And these guys are going to make a huge difference. Got to be careful with some big-time players.
They lost their 2 best players as the season went on. They lost their best player on offense, lost their best player on defense. Jordan Love needs to become their best player on offense for them to take the next step. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad, Denver. What a brutal start. Holy smoke. The Broncos start with the Chiefs, then Jacksonville, the Rams, the Niners, the Chargers, and the Seahawks. Some of this, well, let's start with their quarterback. We talked about the race to get back. A lot of that conversation is about Patrick Mahomes. How about Bo Nix? This news that he had a second surgery. Will he be there for all of these games?
Yeah, the organization's not concerned about Bo Nix, despite the fact that he did undergo a second procedure on that ankle. It was just a cleanup. He was going to have it anyway. It got delayed because of the injury that he suffered in the divisional playoff game against Buffalo that prevented him from playing the AFC Championship game. But the organization is not concerned. He should be ready for training camp. he's going to be ready for Week 1 at Kansas City on Monday Night Football.
So, I mean, RC, I'm surprised. To me, the Broncos feel like a Super Bowl contender. I think if their quarterback is healthy, they were in the Super Bowl a year ago. DraftKings Sportsbook has them the third favorites in the division behind Kansas City and the Chargers. I know this is a brutal start, but what are you looking at?
Well, I think the first thing is look who the quarterbacks of those other two teams are. Right? People still don't put Bo Nix in that conversation, even with all the fourth quarter comebacks. The athleticism we saw from the quarterback position, we're looking at those other quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and they hold them in a different esteem. And the other piece of this is this defense is not only Super Bowl caliber, it can go win you a Super Bowl. It almost put them there with Jarrett Stidham at the quarterback position last year. So this isn't a team that you could sleep on. This is the difference, though, between having the third place schedule last year and now having a first-place schedule when the way we look at this season started.
You've talked about that a lot last couple of days here.
Yeah.
That first-place schedule is a real thing, and you've lived it.
Absolutely. You're getting everybody's A game. There's no question about it. But I will say this, like with the Denver Broncos, they got a couple things working towards them. Number one, that trade for Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is going to make a big difference in this offense because he brings an element that, quite honestly, was lacking with that offense, the explosive element, and then continuity. Like, some of these other teams, you know, coaches moved on, there's been changes, but you still got Sean Payton, Bo Nix. Like, that is such a big deal for a young quarterback, having that continuity as far as play calling and quarterback. So I think those things will work in his favor.
I'll say this, too. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes. That's a whole other conversation. Bo Nix has won playoff games. Justin Herbert has not. Yeah. I happen to be a big Justin Herbert fan. That team never seems to be healthy by the time the season comes to an end. But at this point, Nix, Herbert, I don't know that it's such a one-sided conversation.
I don't believe it's a one-sided conversation, but everything in the Justin Herbert conversation is about potential. Right? It's about who he can be, what we've seen him do from an athleticism standpoint, from a measurable standpoint, the arm strength. With Bo Nix, what we saw last year was many times for 3 quarters, he wasn't the quarterback that you wanted, but he found ways to win along with Sean Payton. If we see more consistency out of him, this could be one of the best teams in the league again.
All right, so we're doing the good, the bad, and now the ugly, which will be the unhappy holiday stretch for the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at Kansas City's stretch from week 12 through week 16. They get the Bills, they get the Rams, they get the Bengals, all of those on the road. Then they come home to play New England. They were in the Super Bowl last year. And the 49ers, if they hadn't been decimated by injury, who knows where they would have been last year. All of this obviously will ride on the health of Patrick Mahomes. But let's just live in a world where he comes back and is healthy and is ramping up as the season goes on. Are we still sure that they are the team? Are they the team to beat in the AFC? Are they right back to that?
Here's the thing.
They weren't that when he was healthy last year.
But this is the Patrick Mahomes stretch, though.
Oh, right.
This is the NFL being smart enough to say, hey, guess what? If he's healthy, if he's who we believe he is, this is when people want to see him play.
They gave him a runway.
Yeah, nobody wants to catch the Kansas City Chiefs, and no offense to Justin Fields, if Patrick Mahomes is not playing the quarterback position. And we've seen him and Andy Reid prove it over and over again how good they could be. But in my opinion, they aren't the team to beat. You have to look at this team. You lost both of your starting corners defensively. You're going to be inserting first-round pick Mansour Delane. You have Patrick Mahomes, who is coming off of a severe knee injury. Travis Kelce isn't who he used to be, and many people feel like you didn't add what you needed in the draft at the top of the draft to the wide receiver position. And so this is a team, to me, that's in flux, and we don't know who they'll be then, but what we expect is that Patrick Mahomes would be there, and he's always box office.
Well, I'm glad you on set right now, because I've been preaching that gospel, man. Because, listen, there's a lot of moving parts, variables to the Kansas City Chiefs right now. They've added a lot of talent via the draft on the defensive side of football. We don't know what those guys are going to be like. And on offense, obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to have to, round in the form. But where's the explosiveness on the offensive side of football? We got to depend on, Xavier Worth, some of these other guys that really haven't shown it yet to really come through for Patrick Mahomes.
So you don't know what we're going to get from those other guys. And I got to tell you something. As much as we know Patrick Mahomes and as great as he's been, I don't know that we know what we're going to get from Patrick Mahomes early on. Let's not diminish the fact that he tore his ACL, he tore his LCL, he's had a toe injury.
Yep.
Like, this is a major injury. How does a player come back from that? When he comes back right away, assuming he plays that Monday Night Opener, do we think we're getting the full-on Patrick Mahomes in week 1?
You tell us.
So I don't believe you get the full-on Patrick Mahomes, but I also believe he's talented enough to figure it out. I believe listing those injuries, though, Shefty, says how much he had to do. The sort of load Patrick Mahomes truly was carrying for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's why Kenneth Walker III is there. That's why Eric Bieniemy is back. It's about holding this team accountable up front, on the outside, in the run game, to say Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to do it all, especially after coming off of that surgery.
That injury, as you see, was December 14th. Their opener is September 14th. 9 months to the day will he be able to get all the way back. Much more football with this crew as we go. Playoff hockey last night, and it was